Bitcoin has just seen a nice pump to the upside, which everyone and their nan is getting extremely excited about, which in and of itself is a massive warning. And don't worry, I will be here to tell you all about why this is not nearly as exciting as everyone's making it out to be. But, you know, this is potentially, like every small move, paving the way to something much bigger where we could be seeing some pretty ridiculous, amazing price targets. And there's one particular comparison that I want to make with the S&P 500, a real world index in the US, potentially showing us Bitcoin rising up to that 70k level as well, which would obviously be very, very exciting. Too early to call for that yet, but let's get straight into this thing right here. So again, as expected, Bitcoin had this area of support. I wasn't expecting this area of support to fail, but in my previous videos, I was warning you guys about what I think would happen if it did fail, right? If Bitcoin did fall below just pretty much the swing low, and more importantly, below the 40k level. Fortunately, though, we have seen yet another bounce right here, and I am liking that, just seeing how this is moving at the moment. We're also seeing a little bit more volume coming back into the market. We haven't seen this kind of volume now for just over a week, so that is a good sign that volatility could be returning to the market. And actually, it falls in line with one of the key things I was saying in my Bitcoin analysis lately, which is that usually kind of lately we are seeing that when we get some green volume in the market, it's spiking the market up in terms of volume a little bit more than the red volume recently, and that again is also a good sign. What I like even more than all of this, though, is just the fact that Bitcoin is in quite a dangerous position right here. It was really, in my opinion, on the edge of a big disaster. But seeing that we pumped up again is nice. Now, the thing I want you guys to keep in mind is that, broadly speaking, we haven't done anything significant at all on this chart. I mean, nothing has changed. There's still a lot of resistance overhead. If we look at the 4-hour Ichimoku cloud, there's a lot of resistance right here. We've barely just touched it. We did challenge the cloud twice, and so like I said in my previous video, the more we challenge the cloud, the easier I think it's going to get to break the cloud. We can see that it's really starting to close up over here as well. So if we manage to keep this rally, potentially drop back down, we're going to have a really nice window of opportunity to break above resistance. And really, that's the main thing I want to talk to you guys about right now, because it's back on the cards how Bitcoin could be looking at breaking some of these prior highs. The real high that I think Bitcoin needs to break right now is this prior high right here at about $44,500. If Bitcoin is able to rise above this high, that will mean that we are no longer in a very short-term downtrend, because we would have swung above the previous high, but that would still put us in a very, very clear kind of rising wedge pattern, which is still inherently bearish. This is one of the key things I want you guys to keep in mind. Bitcoin can, enter areas of, quite frustrating price action, like what's going on right here. But then it can just as easily, pump up and still be in a bearish pattern. And I think a lot of people just aren't giving this any attention. And there's a very good reason for why people aren't aware of this right now. And it's primarily because over the past couple of days, pretty much since the 16th of January right here, Bitcoin did two very, very painful things. Number one, it had a slow, continuous bleed down. Every time the junkie in crypto looks back at the prices, we're slightly lower than the hour before. So that alone is going to wear down on your mental psyche a little bit. And then we're just trading sideways, stopping people out on the upside, stopping people down out on the downside, and then ranging sideways again, right? It's just not a nice place to be in this market. And so suddenly we get a big pump up, and what do you see? We're in a relief rally, right? People are genuinely feeling a lot of relief right now. There's a lot of excitement over what? Like going from 42,000 to 43? Are you fucking serious? Like there's a lot of excitement over this $1,000 move. And that's exactly what we get when the market is still in a bear trend. I'm just telling it to you guys like it is, just straight up analysis, right? Don't get me wrong. Most of my net worth, just like every other shit munching YouTuber on this platform, is in Bitcoin. I'm more bullish on Bitcoin than anything else in my life, including maybe in my own future. But at the same time, that doesn't mean I'm going to stick my head in the sand and act like everything's okay and the whole market's coming back, because out of a bloody, what is this, like $30,000 drop, we've moved up by $1,000 and everything's fine again. It's not. There is still a lot of resistance, right? We're not going to be good until we break this prior swing high. And as soon as we get up there, we're going to have to break resistance at 47. And as soon as we get up there, we're going to have to break resistance at 52. And this is still the key area to beat. And we're really, really far away from it. The reason that I'm saying this is the key area to beat is that this was a very important swing high that Bitcoin set. It's a very important resistance level. And in my opinion, it's the strongest resistance level that Bitcoin can face at the moment. It's nowhere around here here. It's nowhere in this range. It's all the way up at 53k. And ladies and gents, might I just remind you that that is exactly where our bearish Ichimoku cloud is sitting at right now. There's a lot of resistance on these larger time frames, so it's just not the time to celebrate, in my opinion. We're seeing a nice move up for sure, and that is cool, right? I mean, if you made some profits on this, good for you, but how much of this is just recovering an already catastrophic loss, right? I know that a lot of people are getting really excited with their shit coins today. Shiba, for example, I just want to take a look at right now, is at a beautiful, beautiful price level, but just, I mean, I want you guys to keep this in mind right here. I mean, you know, when a coin drops like this from its all-time high to the current price by 67%, and then we get a small, you know, 4-5% move, you're not doing shit. I mean, you know, from a 67% loss, you know, to our current price, the low from yesterday would have been a 69.5% loss. I mean, you're really not erasing anything, and this is the key point I want to make, is that considering how small the move is and how excited I'm seeing people getting right now, it's just not proportionate. It's just not what happens in a market that's recovering, in my opinion, in my experience of being in these markets for going on now my 5th year. It's just not how markets recover. And so the main thing I want to be looking at right now, as much as I want to be bullish, is I'm looking at seeing why these people might be wrong. And, you know, the thing is for me is it really just comes down to looking at this chart and understanding that there's still so much resistance up ahead. And like I said, look, I think there is a path for Bitcoin to go to astronomical price levels, and I'll break this down for you in just a minute. But I just want to draw your attention back to my very last Bitcoin video, which I uploaded yesterday. Shout out to those of you who are hitting up the likes and subscribing to this YouTube channel, because you're going to know all about it. I was talking about a potential head and shoulders pattern that looks something a little bit like this, saying that I still think Bitcoin has a pretty good chance at rising back up to this level. But of course, there's going to be so much resistance up here, like with that daily Ichimoku cloud that I just showed you, that could be offering some trouble to Bitcoin. I think this is really, really important, because we are right now potentially still forming that pattern. And again, like I said, because we've dropped down by so much, we can do a lot and still be in a really, really bearish trend. I want to switch tones a little bit though and get a little bit more optimistic, because the fact is, you know, as much as I am, you know, quite short-term bearish in this market, long-term, obviously, I think Bitcoin's going to blow up. I got a comment yesterday, by the way, someone saying that they love my analysis, but I don't take into account the fundamentals. Guys, here's the thing. I think fundamentally Bitcoin is very strong. That's why I said I very seriously own it as part of my portfolio, more seriously than most people. I'm literally putting my money where my mouth is here. But the fact of the matter is, the market is not ruled by fundamentals in the short term, right? Long term, it's only fundamentals. That's the only thing that matters. But short term, it's technicals and psychology. And I'm sorry to break it to you, but it doesn't matter how strong Bitcoin is. Bitcoin right now, in my opinion, is just as strong right here as it was right here, as it was right here, and right here, and right here, right? It just doesn't matter. You know, this is more about the technical analysis. And if you're here to make money off the charts and make money off the price action, you need to push that shit to the side. Obviously, I think it's one of the strongest assets you can hold in the world right now. And like I said, I'm putting my money where my mouth is with that. But that doesn't mean that we can't continue to drop, perhaps just down to the bottom of this range or even lower, you know, in spite of that, you know, just because there's so much overriding fear in the market. Look at this, right? I mean, if we see this thing jump up quite heavily within the next 4.5 hours because people are excited by this move, man, I mean, that's not a good sign. We've stabilized at extreme fear levels on the fear and greed index now for quite a few days. You know, we're due for a little bit of a hopium rally, in my opinion, but that doesn't really change the picture up too much. Now, here's the thing though. I want to show you something very important on the S&P 500. Now, this chart right here has been in an ascending channel for quite a bit of time, and I've probably drawn it incorrectly, so let me just get this for you guys again right here. What I want to show you is how the S&P 500 was moving, you know, recently. It was actually in a huge channel where it was just in an ascending channel for 300 days right here. It managed to fall out of it towards the end of last year, and it entered another ascending channel right here. Now, what I really want to focus your attention on is this rally that was initiated at the beginning of October last year. It ended around the beginning of November last year. It lines up really nicely with a big move that Bitcoin had. Let me show it to you on this chart right here. And the reason that I think this is really important, and I'm going to pull it up in just a second, is that on this rally that the S&P 500 pulled, and again, we can just trace the price action. Like I said, this was around the beginning of October to the beginning of November. The reason that this is very, very significant is that the S&P 500 had dropped down by quite a bit, and then it managed to, reverse and recover and move upwards again. And right now we're in a similar position where the S&P 500 also has risen up quite nicely, right? If we take a look at this on my watch list, Bitcoin up by 3.4%, S&P 500 up by, it's actually lost a lot of its gains at the time of me recording this video just earlier today. It made some nice gains, but I suppose the point here is that if the S&P 500 is able to recover in the same way now as it did before, that can be very, very strong for Bitcoin, right? Because obviously there is quite a clear correlation between these two assets. And if you're wondering why, by the way, I know a lot of people don't like to admit that there is a strong correlation between Bitcoin and conventional markets, and a strong correlation, inverse correlation between Bitcoin and the dollar. The reason we're seeing this point blank, ladies and gents, is that Bitcoin, to the mainstream investor that naturally being mainstream has a lot of money, is just not, people are not buying Bitcoin. I hate to break this to you guys. I mean, I don't like saying it because philosophically I'm 100% for Bitcoin, but the fact of the matter is, and you gotta put your feelings to the side, this is just a straight fact. Most people are buying Bitcoin not because they want independence from governments and they want sovereignty over their money. They're buying it because it's a speculative investment and they want to take some extra risks with their capital and grow it, right? That's just what it comes down to, unfortunately, and that's how it is, and that's why we get these extreme swings in the market, right? If people were actually buying Bitcoin because they wanted insulation from the Fed and inflation, and they wanted peer-to-peer finance and all the other beautiful keywords that we jack ourselves off to when we read the Bitcoin standard for the first time, then we wouldn't see price drops like this. It's just a straight fact. I mean, now I'm not here to be the devil and upset you guys, but at the end of the day, this is just how the world works. People are buying it because they want to make money. And the thing is that, people are only going to be interested in Bitcoin if they're, if they're making money. Because if you're making money, you get greedy. You just naturally want more. That's how it works. And so, you're only going to be making money if the more conventional markets are healthy. And this is the thing, is that the last time we saw a nice turnaround for the S&P 500, it resulted in some really nice price action for Bitcoin. We could be looking at something very similar. And I want to put this into perspective for you all right now. So let me bring this chart on right here that I've had prepared for you guys for this video. This one's very, very interesting, where we can see Bitcoin's price action actually overlaid against the S&P 500. So this is the very same chart that I was just showing you, but the orange line here is Bitcoin. And take a look at this. So the S&P 500 manages to bottom out right here, like I said, towards the beginning of October, and it starts reversing upwards. And look at this, almost exactly on cue, Bitcoin is starting to pump up really, really nicely again as well, and it tops out at a very similar point to where the S&P 500 tops out, right? If we just look at the time-based analysis, Bitcoin tops out here, S&P 500 tops out at a relatively similar point in time. It does lose that correlation somewhat. Bitcoin had a lot of extra weakness compared to the S&P 500 after this, but we are now at a situation where Bitcoin has some really strong support, in my opinion. The S&P 500 should hopefully have a decent amount of support. I mean, like I said at the time of me preparing this video, the S&P 500 was in a little bit of a nice bounce, and unfortunately it's lost a lot of that bounce right now. But I mean, this is not to say that it's it's going to lose it completely and just fall through to zero. I mean, it absolutely can still recover this move up, and that's the thing I wanted to bring to your attention, is that if we are going to see a little bit more strength in these more conventional markets at the moment, I think that's really going to pave the way for Bitcoin to rise up a lot. And honestly, every bearish thing I'm saying I think won't matter if the S&P 500 and more conventional markets are performing well. I just think that that's going to completely change up the dynamic, because you're going to be seeing more mainstream investors being successful, by extension being greedy and wanting to take on more risk on investments, and naturally that will mean more money flowing into Bitcoin, I think, anyway, just from studying these correlations now for years. And the thing is that this low we're looking at right here on the Bitcoin chart, this orange line, this low is at about $42,000. This high is at about $67,000. And I want to show this to you, how this actually translates to the chart in real life. If we take a look at this on the daily time frame, right here we saw, this low is at about $40,000. This resulted in a huge huge 64%. Why did I get 55? This is a much bigger than 55% pump. This is more like a 70% pump that it translated to for Bitcoin. And we're at the very same price level right now, just ever so slightly higher. And so again, I mean, we see a similar pump like this, and this is really quickly going to put us up towards $70,000 if we got something like that. I'm not saying we will, and every bearish thing I've been saying still applies in this market at the moment. But of course, if we are going to see more mainstream successes in the market, that can change up the dynamic. The fact is right now, just as we're seeing it at the moment, the facts are right now that Bitcoin is still in a pretty bad downtrend. I mean, yes, we did get a nice breakout, and we can actually trace a resistance line fairly far back, showing us how Bitcoin had quite a bit of resistance just with this downward sloping line, and bam, we got a nice breakout with the volume confirming it. So short term, this is a really good sign. But of course, we've had a lot of signs like this. I mean, this rally in and of itself was a huge deal at the time. But of course, we right here on the 𝗪𝗪𝗘 channel knew that this would be a short-lived rally and that Bitcoin would find resistance in this range before continuing to drop down. Inside of VIP, which you can join by following these steps on screen, I had actually planned out a short position on Bitcoin around this range, and it came really close to opening my trade. It actually just came within about $600, which is just over 1% away from entering my short order, and I wouldn't have been able to ride this whole move down. Unfortunately, I was a little bit too aggressive, or conservative I should say, with my entry level, so I didn't get to enter that position. But of course, at least I was expecting it, and this didn't take me by surprise. And so I just wanted to point out to you how, I mean, this was a much bigger rally than the small move that we've seen today, and yet it still didn't end well. I'm not saying that that's the fate of this move, but what I am saying for sure, without any doubt, is that people are just too excited over this. And if you're one of them, it's time to check yourself, get a little bit of a reality check here. A reality check is not going to hurt your wallet, but you better believe that if you don't have one, and if you don't entertain reality checks like this, that it will hurt your wallet in the long run. If you just cannot accept that your investment, may continue to drop or may continue to trade sideways or whatever the case may be, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And obviously, I'm here to try and help you steer yourself away from that, because obviously I've been through all this shit, and I've been the terrible trader and the terrible analyst, and hopefully I'm shining a light for some of you guys to avoid making the same mistakes I did. So that's what I'm seeing with Bitcoin right here. Definitely a beautiful path upwards, potentially opening up, not because of what Bitcoin is doing, but because of what the conventional markets are doing. However, just based off what I'm seeing here, still quite a lot of bearish signs, so I'm definitely, I'm being open to the possibilities, but I'm not changing up my stance right now. I am only, for Bitcoin alone, I am only expecting more resistance just for the moment. So guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. There's some free cash waiting for you when you sign up to Bybit using my link down below. All you have to do is sign up to Bybit, use a VPN if it's needed in your country, and then make your first deposit. You can deposit any currency, by the way, and then you will get just over, there's a bonus of just over $4,000 depending on the size of your deposit. You'll get just over 4K US deposited into your account, and you can buy anything you like with it. You can do whatever you like with it. That's your money, and of course the profits you get to keep, you get to withdraw. So that is very, very cool. It's literally free cash, and all you have to do is sign up and make your first deposit onto the platform. So go ahead and check that out. And again, if you want to be able to watch me trading, gain more access into gain full access into my analysis, the content that comes from myself, from my team, every single detail about every trade I make, the lessons I'm learning, how I'm navigating trades, and so on, then again, you can follow these steps on the screen to jump right inside of 𝗪𝗪𝗘's VIP, and we'll give you everything right there. I have to run, but I hope you have enjoyed this one. You know what to do. If you have, hit up the likes, subscribe, tick the bell, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.